Hey everyone, guess who's back? It's Kamish, back here with another week preview. This time it's week 4, division week. Lots of thrilling matchups. Let's just get right into it. So we start off, there's going to be 2 games that aren't divisional games. The first one is Robert and Templars. He's sitting at 2-1, still right in the mix, taking on Susan Fighting Geese, 2-1. My storyline here is birds of a feather flock together. So, in this one, it's 2 original owners. And, both at 2-1. So, right now they're flocking together. But, obviously one of them's going to separate after this game. Templars, obviously, it looks like there's a tight end weakness there for sure, which definitely doesn't help. But last week we talked about, J.J. Watt, you needed more from him. You got it. He is the second best defensive lineman in fantasy after week 3. So him as a keeper paying off at least there. For Geese, highest scoring team last week. So put up big numbers, 279, I think it was. And, the storyline was Drew Brees. He's, an absolute beast, 52 points, part of the 100-point club, and third best in all of fantasy, guiding the way. And because of that, I'm going Geese to win this one. Next up, the other one that's not a divisional matchup, it's Krista and Storm 0-3 versus M Unique and Ellie Island, sitting at 2-1. This one's called Battle of the Girls Part 2. Storm, I had Baldwin win. Well, it looks like it could be this week. Which would be a huge boost to Krista and Storm. The other thing I'm looking at Krista and Storm this year, there's the injuries obviously with Baldwin, but Derrick Henry, he's been a bust, big bust, and how do you recover from him, or does he ever show up? Unique, Ellie Island, injury to Sean Lee, that's going to hurt the defense. This guy seems to be hurt every year, and once again he's hurt here again, so not exactly what you would want. And also looking at Ellie Island, 2-1, but second lowest scoring team in the league. Very lucky to be at 2-1. Because of that, I'm going Kristen Storm to win this one, get her first win. Next up is Brian in the 12th man as we get into the divisional matchups. He's at 1-2 versus Stanton and BC Lions, 2-1. It's an early West Division battle. When I look at the 12th man, it just looks like his players have great matchups this week to put up some big points. I think that's going to help. Plus, for Brian, I'm sure he's excited. This will be the last game without Mark Ingram in the lineup as he'll return from suspension. For Stanton and the BC Lions, it's a tough week. Doxson and Funchess, 2 receivers, will be on the bye for him. And then also looking at, Des Bryant. We heard about this guy. Is he done? Nobody seems to want him. Because of that, I'm going Brian in the 12th man to take down Stanton and the BC Lions in this one. Next up, Lucas and Green Lightning. He's sitting at 1-2. He'll take on Milan in the 6, 2-1. Implications in the North. And this one, no doubt about it, already early on. And looking at it, Milan in the 6, not a good time for Chris Thompson to go on the bye in this divisional matchup. And then the other thing looking at, will Jay Ajayi be there? It could be an injury issue there for Milan in the 6. Looking at Lucas and Green Lightning, waiting on Bosa, and the latest report as of this recording, he could be out till November. That's awful, obviously, for you. But there is a bright side there for you, Lucas. It looks like Elshon Jeffrey will be back, or at least back very soon. Because of that, I am picking Green Lightning to win this one, and both teams going to 2-2 in that one. Next up, it's Sean and Fallen Misfits. He's at 1-2. He's going to take on Ryan and Longyard, 3-0, one of the only teams left undefeated. And the storyline in this one is the East that never was. So, reason behind that is here comes Ryan and Longyard, and he's already dominating the East. And Sean, it just never has been there for him. And obviously now the injury to Evan Ingram doesn't really help his chances there at tight end. I'm sure he was supposed to be part of the equation and the success that was hoped for this year. But there is a bright side. Patrick Mahomes, he's the second best player in all of fantasy. It's nice to have him as your quarterback of the future. Looking at Ryan and Longyard this week's storyline, well, JG's finally here. We'll see what Josh Gordon can do with Tom Brady throwing him the football instead of Brandon Whedon, amongst others. And then, I mean, for Longyard, imagine if Le'Veon Bell actually was traded. That means James Conner would be the starter in Pittsburgh. Le'Veon Bell would be the starter wherever he goes. Ryan and Longyard would have a four-headed monster at running back. Scary to think about, and I got Longyard to continue to win his ways in this one, going to 4-0. Next up, it's Luke at Too Good for a Name. He's at 1-2. He's going to take on myself, 2-1. And the storyline here, always shitty. I think, Luke, it is. You're always shitty. That's what you're always going to be known to for me. The storyline for me, Jimmy G's turn to suck. I mean, here's a guy that it was his turn. Last week was my storyline, and then, he goes down, torn ACL. The thing that's keeping me in it is my defense. Just some statistics. I got the third best defensive back in Denzel Ward, second best linebacker in Khalil Mack, first and third best defensive lineman in Garrett and Jordan, fourth and fifth best defense in Browns and Dolphins. Obviously, that's what has me at a 2-1 record. Looking at Luke, Darius Leonard. I mean, this guy's an absolute beast. He's come out of nowhere. Could be potentially be your IDP keeper. But bad news, Burkhead goes down. Not looking good for you at running back there. I originally had Luke and Too Good for a Name winning this one. I am changing it to myself winning this one. Next up, it's Glenn and Saving Matt's Ryan. He's at 1-2. He's going to take out Brandon and the Architect. He's at 1-2. Storyline here, emerging talents. I mean, there's two guys here. I mean, Glenn, he did awesome last year, finishing third place in his first year. Obviously, tough situation for this year, but he's starting to build. I mean, the team's getting better. He's always picking up good defensive players via the waiver wire. And then you got to look at, well, Matty Ice, maybe he is saving Matt Ryan. I mean, he's the fourth best quarterback in fantasy. He's doing really well as well. Looking at Brandon and the Architect, kind of looks crippled by the bye in this one. I mean, Alex Smith, AP, those guys are on the bye. It's going to hurt. But then, Brandon's always doing good things as well, picking up a guy like Margus Hunt, who looks like he's the second best defensive lineman in fantasy. So we'll see if he continues. Because of that, I got Brandon and the Architect to go to 2-2 in this one. Next up, it's John and Nathan Lobos taking on Chris and Basin Street Bullies at 2-1. We'll see if stat corrections change this one, but storyline here, early bust of the year, John and Lobos. Pretty sure I had him going 10-2 in my original predictions. Already at 0-3, it's an absolute bust for him. But I mean, he's had some bad luck. 8 starters were out last week. I mean, imagine if those guys were in. I do see Big Ben having a huge game on primetime, though, for him in this one. For Bullies, no Superman. He's going to have to turn to Josh Rosen. And for me, it's Rosen not so much here. I think he'll struggle. There's just something about him. But anyways, I'm going to go with John and Lobos. He's going to go to 1-3 in this one. Next up, it's our stinker of the week. It's Danny and Billsy Bobs at 0-3 taking on Chris and True North 3-0. You might say, hey, wait a minute, a 3-0 team and a stinker of the week. Well, the reason why this one's stinker of the week is because Danny and Billsy Bobs, it's been a disaster for him. And this one just looks like it's going to be no contest. The storyline here is who starts. I mean, for Billsy Bob, I say who starts to fall to tier 2 potentially. He does have good news with Edelman going to be back from suspension. But looking at this one, he's crippled by the bye. I mean, he's got a lot of players out. And then for True North, who starts? Well, Rodgers or Fitzmagic. I mean, Fitzmagic was the better option again this past week. You went with it. Joe Mixon and McCaffrey are out in this one, though. Well, we'll see about Mixon, but I'm likely to be out. Doesn't matter, though. I still got Chris and True North to win the stinker of the week, going 4-0. Next up, it's the game of the week. It's going to be Ryan and Deuce Bombers 2-1, taking on Matthew Cape Cod Sharks 2-1. The storyline here, early stamp on the West. Who's going to take the early stamp? A winner here is going to go 3-1 and better than the other team. So this divisional matchup is huge. For Cape Cod Sharks, I'm looking at it. Is this the last feature game? And what do you mean by that? Well, the last feature game for the best running back in fantasy, Alvin Kamara. Mark Ingram will be back, so we'll have to see how that one goes. And then for Shady McCoy, is he in? He says he's gonna play. We'll see though. If with those ribs, you never know. He could run one play and be out. And then Ryan and Deuce Bombers. I'm looking at Kareem Hunt, Johnson in Arizona. These guys are putting up 40-ish points. I mean, you look at Kamara, he's put up 99 by himself for the Sharks. Johnson and Hunt, them combined wouldn't even equal Kamara. So, obviously, Ryan and Deuce Bombers, I'm sure, is not happy with those guys' production so far this season. And then also looking at a guy like Jimmy Graham, no touchdowns so far in that Green Bay offense. Been fairly invisible for the most part. We'll see if he starts getting involved. I have a feeling he does start to get involved, and I do have Deuce Bombers putting his early stamp on the West in this one. Hey guys, thanks for listening in. I hope you guys have an exciting week 4. I know I will. And good luck to everyone.